Max Verstappen had a really bad weekend in Hungary, and the car updates that were supposed to make them the best team again didn't work. He only came in 5th place and got into lots of arguments with his team. The Dutch driver wasn't happy with the plan his team made, which is weird because the Austrian team usually gets this stuff right. But we've seen how much trouble this can cause him, especially since he's the one getting most of the points for both championships. But with McLaren getting so close behind him and having a car that works really well on all racetracks, is this the first warning sign that Verstappen might leave Red Bull? The Austrian Grand Prix was exciting from the very first lap because, right at the first turn, Verstappen's team told him to give back the position he took from Norris by passing him outside the track. Verstappen thought he was ahead of Norris at the corner, but Red Bull didn't want to take any chances. This made Verstappen angry, and he started talking about how from now on he should just push other drivers around and then ask for the position back. Verstappen is clearly feeling a lot of pressure because even before he gave the position to Norris, Piastri was catching up fast ahead of him. The Dutch driver couldn't keep up with Norris's McLaren car when he let him pass, which is another reason why he felt the car in Hungary wasn't good enough. The tire plan is what didn't work in Verstappen's favor because his team left him out on the track longer compared to Hamilton, who was about a second behind the 3-time world champion during the first part of the race on the medium tires. This was clearly setting up for Hamilton to get ahead by pitting earlier, which Hamilton did perfectly. When Verstappen got close enough to fight, it reminded everyone of 2021 when he and Hamilton almost crashed into each other many times. This time it happened near the end of the race, where Verstappen let his emotions get the better of him during the third part of the race. When Verstappen saved enough tire grip to attack Hamilton, he went too aggressive. This happened because he couldn't pass Hamilton a few laps earlier at turn 2. He felt like he was pushed again. This made him brake too late and crash into the 7-time world champion at turn 1. Honestly, Verstappen should be happy that he got away with what he did without any damage to his car and managed to finish the race in 5th place. The hit on the bottom of his car could have easily been much worse, and he could have even stopped racing completely. Even so, Verstappen started blaming Hamilton for moving while braking, but it seems like even the calmest person in the world, GP Lambiase, has lost his patience with the Dutch driver. When responding to his messages, GP said, "I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other team's Max. We will let the race officials do their thing. It's childish to do it on the radio, childish." This comes a couple of races after Red Bull was blamed for being scared of Verstappen and not being able to stand up to him. Weirdly enough, it comes right after Marko signed an extension to stay with Red Bull until 2026, which indirectly secures the 3-time world champion's future with the Austrian team. Even so, Verstappen wasn't happy with the strategy at all. When he was asked to save the medium tires on the third stint with a sarcastic message from Lambiase saying, "Well, that is some gentle introduction," Verstappen went completely crazy on the radio saying, "No, don't give me that stuff now. You guys gave me the terrible strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left, for God's sake." Even before the second pit stop, Verstappen was sure that the team had totally ruined his race with their strategy, which usually works in their favor because they're good at managing tires in hot weather. When talking about this more, Verstappen said on the radio, "It is quite impressive how we let ourselves get passed by an undercut and completely ruin my race." And keep in mind, he didn't actually say the word ruin. If you know Verstappen and if you're a fan of the sport, which you obviously are, you know that some of the words in that statement have been changed by us because Verstappen used all kinds of bad and explicit language which we don't want to share with you guys. The point is that Red Bull was outsmarted by Mercedes and was almost outsmarted by Ferrari too. Again, Verstappen should be very thankful that the crash with Hamilton didn't force him to stop racing, which would have cost him a lot in the Drivers' Championship. Strangely enough, McLaren did a very weird thing where they asked Norris to give Piastri the lead that he got through no fault of his own. The British team went ahead and pitted Norris first instead of Piastri, which gave Norris the advantage. Instead of cutting 7 more points in the Drivers' Championship, McLaren decided to play for the long term. But the Woking-based team is now sure that they have the best car package that works on all types of racetracks, and this is a very big worry for Red Bull going forward, even though Perez managed to save some good points and finished 7th after starting from the back of the grid. The want to finish of McLaren is something that has hurt Red Bull's dominance even more. Right now, the Austrian team only has a 51-point lead over the Woking-based team in the team championship. The difference isn't that big with Ferrari either, who are 67 points behind, with the better performance from Mercedes, who showed that hot temperatures won't hurt their race performance, as Russell also had an amazing race, finishing 8th even though he was eliminated in the first part of qualifying. Red Bull seems to be in big trouble. During the drivers' parade before the race, Verstappen admitted that his team doesn't have the race speed to fight with McLaren. He said that the reporters must have been looking at different information than what they have in the team. But what is extremely worrying is that this should have been the car package that would have saved Red Bull's season. Marko's comments were quite encouraging, and it was supposed to be a race where Verstappen would have easily dominated. The third-place start was of course affected by the red flag from Colapinto 2 minutes before the end of the third qualifying session. but then again Verstappen showed no special speed to get past the McLaren car. Now the championship in the drivers category is going to get even more interesting in the coming period. Obviously Red Bull has been caught up to quite quickly, and this is something that Verstappen has warned us about during this weekend. He said that he cannot be satisfied with the excuse that they've reached the limit and no more improvements can be found from the RB20. Talking about this matter more, Verstappen said, "Not everyone realizes the situation in the team. I think with me they know that I don't make excuses. I'm always very honest. I think some people might need to wake up a little bit." Definitely Verstappen has had a lot to think about with his future at Red Bull if he wants to keep his championship winning, a streak that is now under a huge threat. It hasn't happened in a while that the Austrian team didn't win in 3 races in a row. This sends worrying signals for the second half of the season because when mistakes like this happen from Verstappen's side, there's no second driver who can take over the mess and score high points. With teams like McLaren and Ferrari as well as Mercedes, we've seen that close competition is what brings them a lot of points in the team championship as well as good strategy and positioning while fighting against Verstappen and Red Bull. With all of this in mind, we're going to have probably the most interesting end of the season with the last 9 races. One team that would be extremely happy with what's been going on at Red Bull recently is Toto Wolff. The Austrian won't stop trying to get Verstappen, and while he said that he's at the time of his career right now where he needs to be winning races and championships, it's Mercedes' job to prove that they can give him that winning car as well. All of this is definitely a perfect situation for Verstappen to leave Red Bull during their bad performance period because in the recent past, we've been hearing statements from Marko and Horner that upgrades are coming and they should be significant. But what we see is that Red Bull is no longer the most powerful car and we might be in the era of McLaren yet again. The 1-2 finish of the Woking-based team will definitely wake up the fighter in Verstappen at Spa, one of his favorite races. But it seems like this is going to be the race where he's going to take the 5th engine, which would automatically give him a 10-place grid penalty, considering that his qualifying performance hasn't been the best in the recent period. It's not guaranteed that he would start 11th if he takes the 5th engine. With Perez's poor performance continuing at least during the Saturday events, it's definitely anyone's game.